Financial Planner. Follow us on YouTube.
Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, a couple days ago, Jamie Dimon came out and he said that Bitcoin was a complete fraud. And all of a sudden, Bitcoin took a dive and it came down in value. Other cryptocurrencies came down in value. And basically, what I see happening right now is they're trying to lower the price of cryptocurrencies because they actually want to purchase more. And this is what these individuals actually do. They make people believe that, this is a fraud, don't get into it, sell it right now. And when they see the price dropping, people get out of it. Actually, you should be getting into it at this time, not when the price is going up, but when the price is falling. But what's very interesting about what he says is that JP Morgan is actually buying Bitcoin. Now, we know with gold and silver, we know that JP Morgan has been buying a lot of silver. We know that Goldman Sachs has been buying a lot of gold. And they put out these announcements to make the price go down so they can purchase even more. And when we look at what they've been doing, and when we look at the NASDAQ Stockholm, we can see that Bitcoin is actively traded there. And guess who's buying? Well, it's JP Morgan Securities. They were the fourth biggest buyer, which suggests two scenarios. JP Morgan is buying for its own account at diamond manipulated lower prices, or JP Morgan is out there buying for clients, even though they were telling everyone that Bitcoin was a complete fraud, and they're committing fraud against their clients because they're telling everyone it's a fraud, but they're actually buying Bitcoin. I think it's number one. I think they are buying for themselves. They wanted the prices lower. He came out with the statement, and this is what these individuals do. They put out these announcements. They have a lot of power when it goes over the corporate media, and a lot of people believe this. They have done it with precious metals for a very long time. Now, in the retail market, with the economy, we can see that things are rapidly deteriorating. Toys R Us right now has entered a death spiral. Now, a week ago, we talked about Toys R Us and how they hired a bankruptcy law firm, Kirkland & Ellis, to help restructure its heavy debt load. And since they've done that, their bond price has completely collapsed. And what we're seeing right now is they're trying to restructure before the all-important holiday season, but I don't know if they're going to get there. I don't think they're going to see a surge in sales during this holiday season, and I think they're going to enter Chapter 11. Now, what we know about the retail industry, it is completely falling apart. Now, Toys R Us will be now added to the list of 25 retailers that have declared bankruptcy who are restructuring, and those include Rue 21, Gymboree, Payless Shoes, and many, many others. And we can see that the entire retail market is falling apart, and it's really not going to online because online is only 10% of the trillion-dollar retail business. So when you hear, Amazon is making, $20 billion or $50 billion, that's chump change compared to the entire retail market. But they're using this to convince you that this is why retail is suffering. No, retail is suffering because people don't have the higher paying jobs. People are being laid off. People are being laid off in retail. People are being laid off in manufacturing. People are being laid off and they're getting jobs as waiters, waitresses, and they're making a little bit of money. A lot of people who had full-time jobs, they're making part-time cash. And it's very difficult to survive and to go out and purchase these goods. This is what's been happening for a very long time. They just don't want to admit it. Now, we know the global debt problem is gigantic. I mean, it is astronomical. Right now, this is coming out of the latest published report that the IIF found that the total nominal global debt has risen to an all-time new high of 217 trillion, or 327% of global GDP. Now, what's very interesting about this is that the Biz has found that global debt may be underreported by $14 trillion. Now, every day, trillions of dollars are borrowed and lent in various currencies. Many deals take place in the cash market, and what's interesting about all this is that it's not being tracked. For the US dollar alone, contracts worth tens of trillions of dollars stand open and trillions change hands daily, and yet one cannot find these amounts on the balance sheets. This debt is in effect missing. And as a result, we know little about it. How much is owed, by whom, and for what purpose. And they're calculating right now is that there's $14 trillion more debt than is being reported right now. So we know there's a lot of debt out there. We know that it's unsustainable, and we could see that it's much, much higher than they're actually telling us. This is why they're pushing and going in the direction of trying to get us into a war as quickly as possible, because the central banks, they don't want to be blamed for what is about to happen, and that is the system is going to come crashing down. Now, Afghanistan is turning away from the United States. They're moving closer towards Russia, and they're teaming up with Russia, and Russia is going to be supplying Afghanistan, the government of Afghanistan, with military helicopters. They're going to be bringing in all different types of military assets, and they want Russia to assist in fighting the terrorists in Afghanistan. So we see already that countries are now moving away from the U.S., saying, you know something, Russia has been very successful in fighting terrorism. They got rid of the terrorists. 85% of the land has been liberated in Syria. They only have 15% left, and we can see they've been very successful in a short period of time compared to the United States that has been in Syria for a very long time, and during that period, the Islamic State has expanded their territory. So who would you want fighting terrorists? You would want the country that was successful, and that is Russia. That's why they're pivoting towards Russia. Now, we see that Russia has kicked off the Zapad 2017 military exercise. It's a huge military exercise, and the United States, well, they're delivering hundreds of tanks and howitzers to Poland right now, and that is being delivered at the same exact time because they're getting ready for their exercise. And basically, Russia is performing these exercises on their own land, while the United States, through NATO, is performing these exercises right at the border of Russia, and that is the big difference. We see that North Korea right now is saying that they will not stop their nuclear program until achieving parity with the U.S. Basically, what they're saying is that they're going to keep pushing forward until they have a nuclear weapon that they can put on a missile that actually works. Right now, they don't have that, and they want to equal the United States, because this way, if they can do this, they will prevent regime change in their country, and they know this. Now, South Korea, they are right now getting prepared for some type of an attack from the north. Now, North Korea is not going to attack South Korea, because if they do, North Korea would be obliterated in a second. But the corporate media, these government idiots, they are really pushing the agenda to make you scared, to make you think that something's going to happen. And the only way that something's going to happen is if they create it. But right now, South Korea, they are preparing for an electromagnetic pulse attack. They're preparing for a biochemical attack. They're preparing for pretty much everything, because they believe that the North Koreans are going to actually attack South Korea, which would be absolutely ridiculous. First of all, if they actually do this and they go through with it and they fire missiles at South Korea, first of all, the United States is going to get involved. NATO is going to get involved, and North Korea will no longer exist, because once that starts, we're also going to see China and Russia. Well, they're going to come to the aid of North Korea, and North Korea is going to be in the center of this, and North Korea would be wiped out in a matter of seconds. They will not be able to survive the attack. And if Russia and China see the United States, NATO, South Korea building up military forces, getting ready to go in, because they have satellites all over the place, they understand they can detect the communications, they understand what is going on, guess what? They're going to back North Korea. They're going to step in, and they're going to shut this down. And the United States knows this. This is why they haven't made a move as of yet. They also know that Russia has the technology to shut down ships, to bring the electronic systems to a screeching halt. They also understand that Kim Jong-un, he's not crazy. He's not going to start a war what they really want to do is they want to create and maintain nuclear weapons to prevent the cabal from coming in and having regime change in North Korea. Now, we've mentioned before that there are many countries that are bypassing the dollar. And even though Iran is using yuan, ruble, gold for trade for their natural resources, the United States continually places sanctions on Iran. Well, it looks like they are sidestepping these sanctions completely. Now remember, Russia and China, they created these banking systems. They have the BRICS, the AIIB, and they are loaning currency to these different countries. And right now, China has opened a 10 billion credit line with Iran. Now they're going to be trading in euros and yuan, which completely bypasses the United States and the dollar, which means that they're going to bypass the U.S. sanctions. They will have no effect whatsoever. So already countries are like, you know something? We know how to get around this. North Korea is using Bitcoin. They're selling drugs. They're getting different currencies in. And again, sanctions no longer, actually, they've never worked, but they are not working anymore. The bully on the street is being pushed back now. And that is the cabal. It looks like at this point, they have no power. We see there is a race for Deir ez-Zor. Now, according to the U.S. corporate media, they're reporting that Russia attacked the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now, the SDF, these are the forces that the United States created. They're saying they're mostly made up of Syrians right now, and they were fighting and moving towards Deir ez-Zor. Their forces were east of the Euphrates, and they're saying they were hit by Russian aircraft. And the Syrian forces, and Russia is saying, yeah, this is completely fake, phony, and false. First of all, we notified the United States, the Pentagon, that we were going to bomb in this area. We were going after the terrorists. And Russia is out there saying that they did this to avoid unnecessary escalation. The command of the Russian troops in Syria revealed that the boundaries of the military operation in Deir ez-Zor to the American partners through the existing communication channel. This came from the Russian Defense Ministry. And they're saying that within their framework of operation, the fighters, armored vehicles, and objects of terrorists are being destroyed on both western and eastern banks of the Euphrates. Now, the United States knew all about this. They knew exactly where the Russians were going to be. They knew exactly where the Russians were going to attack. And it looks like this was completely set up so the corporate media can go out there and say, oh my God, they're bombing the SDF. But this is not true. They were notified. They knew what was happening. They knew where the Russians were going to be. And they're using this to make it seem like that Russia is doing this. But this is completely fake, phony, and false. This is a last-ditch attempt to show that Russia is actually bombing the grassroots uprising. And by the way, the Syrian Democratic Forces was just created about maybe a year ago or so at this point. So this is not all of a sudden they just came out of nowhere. They were created by the United States because they were getting flack that the moderate rebels, they weren't Syrian. And they created a whole new force to say, yes, these are the Syrians, 90% are Syrian. So right now, the cabal is losing power. They have no power right now, and they're doing whatever they possibly can to push this war along. But right now, it doesn't look like it's working. The only thing that they can do at this point is have some type of an event in North Korea, and it looks like this is what they're pushing for. This is why they were out there reporting that the North Koreans fired a missile. Now they can reach Guam, and it looks like they're trying to figure out a way to create this event. And again, it's a slow process where they have to show and prove that North Korea can actually do this. And who knows where this missile will actually be fired from. It could be fired from the ocean. They could say it was from one of North Korea's subs, and no one would ever know, just like all the other false flags, until it's too late. But we've been following this. We understand what they're trying to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they push this to the next level. And this is what we've been watching, because as we know, the economy is completely falling apart. It's in a death spiral right now. Retail is a complete disaster. Housing is going to be coming down. Rents are coming down. Tax revenues are declining. GDP is a complete and utter disaster. And all these numbers are completely manipulated. Think about it. If these were the real numbers and they were telling us what was really going on, they would already say we collapsed. But again, as long as they can keep the stock market up and they can give us manipulated numbers, everyone believes that everything is fine. But in reality, we are worse off than 2008 right now. All the indicators, a lot of the indicators that we're seeing are equal to or a lot worse than they were in 2008. And everyone is going to be shocked when all of a sudden the truth is let out there that we are in a recession, we're in a depression, and we're collapsing. This is why you need to get prepared and ready.